So our speaker for today was supposed to be Tyler Kaiser. She is the Oakland program director for Causa Justa Just Cause, and it's an organization that helps the underserved. And I met her when she was the policy director for Coalition for the Homeless in San Francisco. And she actually just flew in from out of the country and had a flu. So what happened was I was talking to her on the phone yesterday, and I'm driving through Berkeley, and she's like sounding really, really sick. And I'm like, it's okay. You don't have, I can I'll let you off the hook for tomorrow, no problem. And so she's rescheduled for April 11th. But while I was talking to her, I turned a right turn and I ran someone down. And then I'm like, oh shit, that person's going to be mad at me. Okay. And I looked over there and that person is it's a friend of mine. Can you believe it? And I go, are you mad at me? She's like, it's you. I expected it. Anyways, so my Nguyen is a CEO and co-founder of a med tech company. So she's like, it's okay. I expected it. And then she's like, yeah, if you need my help, I'm in town for the next few weeks. So if you need any help with your Berkeley classes, that'd be great. Just let me know. Then I started taking off my car and I screeched to a stop. And I'm going, Mai, what are you doing tomorrow night? And she's like, nothing. I go, do you want to come and speak at Newton series? And guess where Mai went for her undergrad and her PhD? Okay, go Bears. So she said, absolutely, I'm going to come speak. So here's Mai. Let me tell you a little bit about her. Like I said, she got her BS here and her PhD here, and she founded a company. And this company that she founded, it just raised $2 million. So what we're going to do you remember what Bill Reichert talked to you guys about pitching to investors 2 weeks ago? Well, she's going to do her pitch for us that she did pitch to investors and raise the $2 million. So now you get to see a real life pitch from someone who actually raised money. And then after that, we'll do some Q&A about how she got there, and Q&A open to all the students. How about how? Okay, let's pull it up. It's not showing.
So while they're trying to get my presentation up, I have a few rules. This is an opportunity for you guys as Berkeley students. You're paying for your tuition here, right? My request is if you want to talk to the person next to you, the door is there, then you don't need to be here to listen to me. So that's...
Don't let the door bang.
Exactly. So I will stop and call you out right away. Because I was a GSI here, and I understand undergraduate mentality and graduate mentality very well. I did biology here, so, Ernoff, one of the professor here, would always be like, all right, you're welcome to leave because you're here. You're taking a seat from somebody who actually wants to be here, right? You're at the #1 public university. So you guys are welcome to talk, but I will stop and ask you to leave. So that is my rule. So I hope you do respect that. And Gigi, I just raised a $2 million investment in a bridge round. Total amount is $8 million. So just an FYI, if you were wondering, in this terrible economic environment, it's 8. So just to clarify. But yes, I think a lot of times what people don't realize, especially in an investment, is that it doesn't matter the idea that you have. It doesn't matter how great it is. It matters your story and your team, right? So, right, today I will go over pretty slowly because usually in an investor meeting, it has to be really quickly, but I'll give you kind of the crux of actually what goes on in an investor deck and also my story as to how and why I did the things that I did, right? So our company is called Optoceutics, and we are a medtech company looking to combat neurological and psychiatric disorders. We're a startup, a spin-out coming out of DTU, which is in Denmark, but also at UC Berkeley. I'm the only Berkeley American person, and the company was incorporated in 2018 while I was in grad school in Denmark. So we're a Danish company right now. I spend most of my time in Denmark. So Gigi was just lucky enough to almost run me over, and for me to be nice enough to say, yeah, since you want to run me over, I'll come and talk to your students. But yes. There is something, but I'm also Asian and I drive fantastic. So that's the completely opposite of what stereotypical things are, right? So we're going to go the opposite way. Okay. Don't listen to Gigi. On a good day, she's your professor. Today, I'm the talk. But yes, we are Optoceutics. And one of the things before I even want to talk about what the company does is why it all matters to me. What's the reason why I'm doing this? I'm doing this is I always want to tell people the story of my life, and I want to take it personal. This is my dad, one of the most important person to me in the world. And this is also my mom and dad holding our niece. And, you know, as they're aging, and that they were basically, my dad was about 67 years old when I was in grad school. I officially graduated in 2020, so it's actually only about 3 years ago when I got my PhD. And in 2020, before I even got my degree, my dad was in the hospital, and it was COVID. During that time, we were not able to go into the hospital. Because of COVID, you can't come in. So what they did is they allowed us, each person, get that I have 7 older brothers and sisters, plus my mom. I only got 10 minutes to walk up to the hospital room and say our goodbyes to my dad. And in those 10 minutes, it was the most precious 10 minutes of my life because I didn't realize he went to the hospital 10 days later. It was his last day on earth. So for me, number one thing is time. Time with your family and time that is most important, that memories that I would never get back. And the thing is that I'm not alone in this, right? A lot of people go through this during the pandemic or even during the times where you are suffering from neurological disease. Because every 3 seconds, someone is diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And you don't know this because a lot of you guys who are still undergraduates, your parents are getting old. And you forget, you go through your daily lives, you go through whatever you're doing, whether you forget to call them or talk to them, you don't realize that they're getting old as you're getting older as well. It's the 7th leading cause of death in the world right now. 55 million people are having this disorder, and it costs the industry about $2.8 million. As well as people are living with this, there's 139 million people right now. And as I'm looking at my mom, who's by herself, I can see that she's aging. And for me, this is why it matters. To do something that can change the lives of millions of people, it's not about making money. Because to be honest, there's really no effective treatments for Alzheimer's and dementia. You know, 99.6% of drugs that are being tested in the last 2 decades have failed in clinical trials. And the only current drug helps with symptomatic effects. And the one that just got approved last year, actually, Aduhelm, can you imagine? It doesn't even cure the disorder. Costs about $54,000 a year. Just to help with slowing or even helping with the symptoms of this. And also, a majority of the experts and doctors currently doesn't think that we need to have a non-drug approach. But what are we doing? We're still spending billions and billions of dollars. In fact, every single clinical drug trials costs about $4 billion to go from beginning to end. $4 billion. That has been in the last 10 years, 413 clinical trials. Just imagine how much that costs to fail. And did you know that 10 to 20 years before dementia or cognitive decline occurs, symptoms occur, you actually are declining in the brain. So that means 10 to 20 years, you can do something to help yourself, to help your family member, to help everybody who's going to end up going through this. But what we do as a healthcare system is we still think of it as an old age disorder. Instead, we have to think about it as an aging process. We have to think about it as when we're younger and how we can prevent the disorder. That's why at Optoceutics, our vision is to create innovative technologies that can help you live a better quality of life, to prevent such disorders from happening earlier, and to also educate everybody on how to think about your lifelong health. Not when you're in your 50s, not when you're in your 60s, but right now, when you're in your 20s and 30s. Because if you guys don't know this, anxiety has a 27% conversion rate to early Alzheimer's. Major depressive disorders has a 57% conversion rate to Alzheimer's. Just depression alone has that. Diabetes, which is inflammation in the brain, has a 33% conversion rate to cognitive decline. So, what can we do, right? Drugs don't work. Clinical trials don't work. But one thing that I learned when I was in grad school is that research came out that talked about 40 hertz flickering light. Why does this matter so much? It's because the 40 hertz flickering light in mice actually found out that it can reduce brain atrophy, it can decrease amyloid and tau tangulation in the brain, which would then stimulate beneficial activation of microglia, which is like neuroinflammation, as well as improve memory in these Alzheimer's mice. But what does strobing look like? Do you guys know what 40 hertz strobing look like? Anybody? Have you gone into a Halloween horror house before? If you are sensitive to light, just turn away. This is what 40 hertz flickering looked like. So can you imagine my horror looking at this and saying, all right, if I want to help my mom or any of you guys, you're going to have to put this in your face for an hour a day. I don't think anybody wants to do that, right? So what our unique and patented technology is what I did as a grad student. I said, why don't we just mask the light? Interlay two very similar white light that is combined lights on and off, just altered. You can still stimulate your brain because your retinal ganglion cells can actually detect smallest nanometers of changes in the eyes that sends a signal to your brain. And so typically, 15 to 20 years before you look at decline, you can actually get an EEG test, an MRI, and you can actually see that the signalings are off or declining. And with our light, it's slowed down right here on your right. It's slowed down so that's flickering. It actually re-entrains the brain at 40 hertz. And why does 40 hertz matter? It's because it's actually known to optimize your brain electrical signal. Which means it's kind of like, you guys love your phone, right? If your phone ran out of battery, you're probably not going to be able to live for like one day. We have blackout or something. It's kind of like that. Your brain, after a day, if it doesn't have something, it freaks out. Doesn't know what to do. You get these like plaques all over your brain. It doesn't clean it up. But what we are doing is we're stimulating the brain to optimize that. We don't know what it does. No one knows the mechanism. But we do understand through our research that it can stimulate beneficial memory and inflammation in the brain. And so we went and did a clinical trial. We went through our phase 1 and we're currently in phase 2 clinical trials in humans. Actually, we are doing a mice trial here at UC Berkeley. That's also why I'm here in my previous lab, studying the impacts of this light on mice models. And in Denmark, we're collaborating with the leading researchers in Alzheimer's, biomarker, and blood biomarkers in Denmark, Sweden, Germany, and here in the US. And our results has shown that the lights actually do work. They actually reconnect the brain connectivity as well as its super adherence. What does that mean? Is that if I had someone sit in front of this light, they're fine, they're happy. It's kind of like you guys sitting in this room right now. You don't even really notice it, right? So why is it that we're going to sit in a room where you're not, these lights are actually flickering at 60 to 80 hertz, by the way. They're just flickering fast enough so that you don't notice them. At 40, you notice them. But why not have something beneficial? And it has a tendency now, it's been shown, to improve cognitive function in humans, right? That's what's impactful. Because yes, mouse models are important, but the most important thing here is, does it work in human? It can stimulate the brain all it wants, but at the end of the day, if it doesn't create that change, that behavioral change, that impact in physiological and mental health, it doesn't matter. So what we did is we said, yeah, it works. Great. Now we can move on. So what we did is that during grad school, I got invited because we did a patent for this device for the light masking. They said, come to Denmark for 3 weeks. And that's what I did. I left in the middle of grad school, left to Denmark for 3 weeks, and we had an MVP of this product. This is EV Light. It is the first non-invasive mass brain stimulating light that can stimulate your brain, that is user-friendly, that I can just sit in front of it, and it allows me to focus. It allows me to have this beneficial impacts of stimulating my brain. Now, this is one of our students' mom. She's just sitting there reading her newspaper. Can you imagine a day that in the past, all we thought about was, if I was depressed, I'm going to take a drug. If I was anxious, I'm going to take a drug. But you don't remember or know the implications and impact it has on you as a person when you ingest something. How does that impact you and how you're feeling? But what if you can just have a light in front of you? That is the future. That is the future that Optoceutics is envisioning for not only my parents and someone who's aging and getting older, but for every individual who's suffering from a neurological and psychiatric disorder one day. To have it up above you guys, and you won't even notice this. It might just be a lamp right now, but tomorrow, it can be utilized in all sorts of aspects. While you're studying, while you're eating, while you're reading a book, hanging out with your family. And what's the cost right now? Here's what we do have competitors, because it's very important to know that there are other people who are doing this. The researchers who has the original project has had a startup company called Cognito Therapeutics. And they're coming out with a goggle. None of these people who are building these lights are masking them, which means the goggle that they're asking your mom or you to sit is about right here in your face. And that strobing light that you just saw is in your face for about an hour a day. You can't go anywhere. You can't do anything but lay there and get the treatment. We're different. We allow you to sit there with a comfortable light, play your video games if you want to. Actually, we encourage you to do other things because it actually stimulates the brain even more. Our cost is very, very low compared to most medical device. If you really think about it, Aduhelm, the FDA-approved drug, that's $54,000 a year. One device from us is $2,000. That's it. Think about the trade-off. We also have a very high market growth. It's because, as you know, the world is aging, the world is living longer, but living longer doesn't necessarily mean that you are living gracefully. You can live longer, but be immobile, not have an idea, not have your own thought process. But if you are able to live life longer, but also enjoy a better quality of life, that's what matters. And we do know that these numbers in the aging and dementia is growing exponentially. And by 2050, that number turns out to be 56 million people living with the disease. Also, if you really compare what our device does, the number of days from when you have diagnosis for dementia and how long you stay in the hospital After 15 days of care with dementia, you've already paid for this device in the healthcare system. So not only does it impact and help your family and you and yourself, it also helps with the healthcare system and the payment. Imagine how much we can do with the amount of money that we save from developing drugs, the amount of money that we can save from healthcare providers. That's just coming from a small device and a small vision that we have for tomorrow. And for us, we couldn't wait until phase 3 of clinical trials because we understand that time is really important. So we decided to release our product as a general wellness and a class 1 medical device in Europe so that anyone can get a hand on these devices at the cost that they are now, be able to get the beneficial treatment of the device rather than waiting 5 to 6 years from now until phase 3 comes out. It's a huge risk at the same time, but if you believe in the vision and the idea that something can potentially impact yourself now, how much is $2,000 worth to you? How much is the value, the quality of life? I can tell you guys all something. You guys all love going to the gym because I go to the RSF a lot. And the amount of students I see in there and the amount of money you spend at the gym for your clothes, for your shoes. You guys have it free right now, but trust me, when you're like me, I had to pay $80 a month, it hurts. So if you calculate that, you always think about physiological health, your body health, but you never think about your brain health. So you spend about $1,000, $2,000 a year for gym, clothes, if not even more. Why don't you spend a small amount of probably invaluable, like priceless, on a device that can actually benefit your brain? Our achievements so far, we are a registered class 1 medical device in Denmark, and we are going to apply for an FDA breakthrough device here in the US so we can run our own real-world experiments, go onto the market and get a better understanding of how the device can be applied in classroom settings, in settings with kids with ADHD and anxiety, as well as how does that translate into later in life Alzheimer's and cognition decline. We also have a great team. We have 5 patents so far from the original patent that I did back in 2017. We've assembled a lot, huge key opinion leaders from across the world who are able to guide us in what we're doing. And currently, we are going to launch a Series A fundraising, which is about $25 to $30 million to help us run our phase 3 clinical trials, as well as enter the US market and grow our product and what we're doing. And these are some of the funds that you're going to utilize it on and accelerate our clinical trials. We have a very passionate team. In the last 4 years of the incorporation of the company, we've actually have 16 employees. Some of them are students and PhD students. What I'm really proud of is that we have a 0% dropout rate in this company. Can you imagine starting a company in a startup, super stressful? Most drop out in the first or second year, but we have a 0% dropout rate. We have a board member that is expertise in not only the business, neuroscience, but also in communications and medical doctors. We also, again, compiled a list of world key opinion leaders who will guide us through not only the second phase, but the third phase of our clinical trial. If you guys don't know, Hendrik Zederberg has been named the #1 blood biomarker in Alzheimer's professor in the world. Jeffrey Cummings is actually one of the leading Alzheimer's clinicians in the world. He's always invited. And we have other European leaders in photonics engineering, as well as radiology for MI. And we have key opinion leaders here at UC Berkeley to help us understand our project and how to further it along in various data sets. You know, again, aging sucks. There's a lot of dark moments. Here's the image of my dad's grave. That's the whole time during the pandemic, we couldn't put a grave down. And it was very difficult for me to understand that I didn't get a lot of moments with him, right? So we have to cherish our future and be happy with the moments that we got. But at the same time, if you can get those more, say one more day, one more month, one more goodbye, how much is that worth to you? Spending one more time with your dad or your mom or someone who you really care about. So enjoy those moments. Why not spend a little bit of money and more effort on research and doing good to have more of those moments? Again, I want to summarize. We are raising money. Join us in our journey and where we're going, because you can make an impact. Whether you believe in the idea or not, small to insignificant amount, if you think that is, you can help.
Thank you, Mai.
Yeah, no problem.
So, what did you guys think of her investor pitch? Wonderful. What did you like about it? Like, what do you think it was so good? It was very personal. It didn't feel like a pitch. Back there? I can't see. Okay. Someone else have some? Right. Yep. She spoke to the heart, which Bill said was the most important organ to touch upon. So, great. What I'd like to do now is pull up the attendance slide. So what they do is they take a picture with the attendance slide.
Okay.
So if you wonder if that's what they're doing. And here's a picture of Mai when she was doing the research and showing what she was doing here at Berkeley. Okay. So I want to ask her a few questions, and then I'd like to open it up for. Okay, I need your help.
Hey guys, I think Gigi's trying to talk to you.
You want to hear what's really crazy? Are you the 9th kid or the 8th kid?
I'm the 8th kid.
Okay, Mai is the youngest of 8 kids, and you would think that I would be yelling at you guys than she was. I guess she didn't have enough practice.
I'm the youngest.
So here's a question for you, Mai. What did your parents do for their careers or as a living?
My parents immigrated here, so they don't speak English. My dad was in the Vietnam War, so he got spinal injury, so he never worked. And my mom sold at the flea market.
So you sold in the flea market?
Yeah,
Did they go to college?
No, my dad never went past the 8th grade, and my mom, I think middle school was the highest education that she got.
So why in the world did you decide to get a PhD?
I think seeing my parents go through and they left everything in Vietnam. I wasn't actually born here. I was born in Vietnam. My parents were boat people, right? They tried a couple times.
With all the kids?
Yeah, with my brothers. And then finally they came here from my aunt. But it took a lot of time for them because they sacrificed, because they wanted to make sure that we got an opportunity that they never did. Because my mom had to quit school. She's one of 16. So for her, she had to quit school at a young age to take care of her younger siblings. And she didn't want that for my brothers and sisters and I. So that's why I came to America, and I understood also to give them a good life, I needed an education.
Yeah. So, you just gave the investor pitch, which was very positive. Like, we released a product, we developed this, we found this, we've helped this many people, we've raised money. And that's what we always see on TV. And we always read in the news, like, oh, so-and-so raises money, so-and-so went IPO, this and that. Can you share with us, like, a challenge that, like, some of your dark moments in working on the company And I've heard some of these. So I know they're there.
I mean, I got to be honest. I mean, this is an investor pitch, right? You're supposed to put your best foot forward. But can you guys imagine me 5 years ago going to investor before all the research and all the explosion of light technology and saying like, hey, just shine this light in your face and it can help with cognition and Alzheimer's? You'll probably slam the door in my face. And that's what I got. I got probably hundreds and thousands of people saying like, that's stupid. That's the stupidest thing ever. It's about having thick skin and finding people who, that's why your story matters, right? Because at the end of the day, the people who actually started investing in us and the people who started helping us, like the hospitals, they believe in the story and they believe in the social impact of it. And you have to also know what your core vision is to do it. And then once we started rolling, then people come back and they say, hey, I want to invest. And I'm like, sure, we've tripled in valuation. You're welcome. You know, so it's fine, but you have to not be disheartened because you fail a lot. I also work with, I have 8 other co-founders. They're all European men. So trust me when I say that coming from a small American Asian woman, that is a huge struggle. Being a CEO of a company who's just a scientist, has no no business background. I was purely biology and asked to say, hey, would you lead this company? And I'm like, what the? You guys can fill in the blank. Like imposter syndrome is a huge thing. But it was my co-founders who said, no, I think your personality is great for this. This is your vision. And it's true. It's because no one can do your vision better than you, but you have to believe in yourself. There's a lot of times where people think they would walk in and say, oh, hey, you're the secretary, right? How's it going? Trust me, imagine my face. And of course, they didn't get business with us because if you're a narcissist like that who thinks I'm the secretary, then you can show your way out the door and don't let it hit you. Actually, let it hit you. You know. But yes, we had a lot of struggles getting funding at the beginning when people don't know who we are. We're just a bunch of students. Literally, all of us were just students. Marcus is still doing his PhD, my CTO. He's finishing up his PhD in neural photonics at DTU right now.
So, do you feel like you had challenges as a female pitching to investors and a female on an all-male team? And give an example, and then how did you deal with it?
Yeah, definitely as a woman, you will always have a much harder time to get investment than a man, right? Because bro culture. Yo, I know you can do this, bro. Like, we got it. You got it, right? You can connect with them more. For example, during the pandemic, investments went down, and there was a study that said, statistically, women do better in leadership. They get better successful companies. So they're a lower risk investment during this critical time. But guess the percentage of women who actually got investment declined during the pandemic, whereas the men who were in the executive actually increased. So investors, again, are like, yeah, women are much safer investment. Okay, let's invest in men. How the hell did you come up with that logic? I don't know, but I'm still curious about that. I think at the end of the day, you just got to play the game right. You got to understand that that's how it works. But you also have to have the humility and the strength to be like, nah, I'm going to prove you wrong. Thank you for saying no. It's okay. Don't get mad. Get even. That's a better thing to do.
So how are you going to get even for almost running you down?
Oh, man, I'm going to expect a really nice dinner from you, Gigi. One of these. She cooks really well, so I expect a nice invitation over the house.
So I'd like to open up to see if there's any other there's questions here. How many of you are in bio or medical or biosciences or bioengineering? Sorta? Okay, here's your chance to ask a question. How many of you want to do a startup in that space? Okay. Sorta, Lucas. So, questions? It always takes like a little while to get it warmed up, and then the questions start coming. And if you guys don't ask questions now, no one's allowed to come up and ask questions afterwards.
Can you talk a little bit about how the device works? So, let's say I'm like patient, sitting in my own device, not
Yeah, we have eye tracking technology in our device. It's right there. It's literally you can track the usage. It works in clinical trials. We do have EEG and we do fMRI scans and we do cognitive testing. We do focus testing. We do mood and sleep testing. For you yourself, we have an app that we released. It's in beta testing right now, but it's very simple. You literally can turn it on, and you have a computer next to you. Put it arm's length. Forget about it. I can show you if you want.
There's a question way back there. Yeah, right there, the front row.
No, that's fine.
I'm curious if there have been tests done on higher participants active trials about controlling the main trials about replacing all of the lights with your technology.
Yeah, we did a 1 hour control because that's what was in the mouse model. But we've definitely seen people use it for more than a couple hours. People who have like focus problems tend to just leave it on as they're working. We have a few user testing in Boston who are in like high stressful jobs and Wall Street and things like that, where it takes a little while, but people do use it for that long. The only thing we don't recommend is bright light, right? So if you really want to go to sleep at night, don't use it at like 10 p.m. Definitely, we do see a world where, in my last pitch, an investor asked, and I said, why not? It's just the only thing is that because it's flickering, you have to phase the technology to phase the lights so that it can all integrate together. So you don't want to have something strobing on and off at the same one. So the technology is not there yet, but we do have a patent on it. So yeah, we have one. Yeah. We're doing it in Denmark, so it's 399 crown, depending on the conversion rate. No, 399 crowns.
Wait, where are the Europeans?
Do we have Europeans who know what crown is? What is that? $35 a month. That's what it is. Don't ask me. Even though I live in Denmark most of the time, I have to use a calculator. So I'm from the Bay. I'm sorry. So it's eatable. I cook for the office, so I cook lunch every day when I'm there. So yeah, but yeah, it's good. Yeah, you're in Scandinavia. I don't know what you can do, but yeah, yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Yeah, so we've already done the safety and feasibility test for it. So we do have the data for that. That was a pilot study, and then this is the phase 1. So we do know that there's 0 to none adverse events, and that's what we did in our pilot study, looking at the safety of it. And then we also went through all the, what is it? It's the European version, the DMA, Danish Medical Agency. So we have a CE mark device, which means that it's safe to use. Everything is a medical device cleared. And we also have FCC approved, which is the American version of getting it to be, let's say it doesn't blow up in your face after different cycle. We had this device sitting in a closet for months running through cycles to see how long it takes to die or not work. So those are a lot of testing. Regulatory wise, Europe is actually much, much, much stricter. So a lot of things, if you can get a device cleared in Europe, that's great. You can come to the US much faster, right? So we got our device classified as a class 1 medical device in Europe, which means it's safe to use, it has little adverse, and it's a medical device, officially a medical device now. That's why we can sell it in Europe and in the US as a general wellness product. Yeah. Yeah, so we did that in our pilot and our phase 1. So we followed them for initially the pilot for 8 weeks, and then our phase 1, we did it much longer period of time to look at what happened in the brain. Are there adverse events for a long time? And then now we're in phase 2, which is taking it even longer. The good thing about it, it's non-invasive, right? Like you can turn it off. The half-life is, that's why you have to use it every day. Because the next day, your brainwave just goes back to being wacky. And that's the key, is that because it's classified as a much lower risk device, you're not ingesting it. Because when you ingest anything, a drug, even your water bottle who's been sitting in your car for a long time, you're ingesting estrogen. You know, so. Oh, there's too many. I don't know which one's which. We released the product before phase 3. So it's classified as a class 1 medical device, which means you can sell it as a class 1 medical device with no claims of Alzheimer's. As long as you're not selling it and claiming it to Alzheimer's patient, we've done the clinical trials for focus, for safety, for brain stimulation. Those kinds of things, you can sell it. You can advertise it as that. You can't advertise it as, this will cure your Alzheimer's. This will help you with dementia. That's the thing you can't advertise it as.
How can you be certain? I feel like it's very interesting with like the laboratory. How can you be certain the long?
You're not, right? How can you be certain with a majority of the drug that you see commercial on TV that says at the end really, really fast, warning, if you're taking this for prolonged, see your doctor if you have diarrhea, brain bleeding, and headaches. Again, you're taking it. Most women in here who are taking birth control, you don't realize taking birth control long term, depending on the birth control that you're using, can cause later in life reproductive function, later in life cancer, later in life things. You're still taking it, right? So that's the risk if you're willing to take it, and that's the risk that we tell people all the time. This is what we know that it does. This is what we know that there's no adverse events, that it doesn't do, that we followed it for a while. At the end, we don't have a really long blood bleeding, headache, nausea. We don't have that because we haven't seen that. We've seen headache. People with migraines shouldn't use it because they're sensitive to strobing lights and bright light. But again, every single thing that you do is a risk. And if you're willing to take the risk to create change, that is completely up to you. I'm not twisting your arm. I'm not twisting an investor's arm. I'm just saying, if there's a hope. And that's the thing. If you give someone hope that change can happen, that they don't have to say take Adderall for their anxiety and ADHD every day, because trust me, it has a lot of negative effect on you internally, physiologically, on your teeth, on your mental health. What does that cost you? Just using the light for a little bit.
So we got there, the knife is the way yet, and we need to speak loudly.
No, so because we don't have a medical claim on Alzheimer's, this device, how much it costs for us to build it and live as a company to break even is how much we're selling it for. When we have a claim for it, because you have to go through FDA regulatory, spend millions of dollars on clinical trials, as well as fees for FDA, you bet this device is not going to be $2,000 anymore. So most of our investors understand that, is that they're investing in us testing our product in real world experience. They're investing in the potential to use this product in clinical trials while we're also testing it with people in a safe way.
So if a customer rents this or buys it,
Yeah.
how are you collecting data from them? Because that's insanely valuable.
Yeah, I mean, right now what we do is of course, we're GDPR compliant, which is privacy data. So everything's on Amazon web service in the cloud. We also have our app, which they can enter themselves. And then we have a secure portal. We also call them personally. For me, we've only sold probably 100 devices right now. And it's mainly so that I can call them personally and ask them, I don't want you to buy a device if it's not for you. You know, morally, I cannot do that. So I've had people call me who say, my wife is in moderate Alzheimer's. And I say, I'm sorry, like her neurons are gone. Like you can probably slow it down when you have MCI. And we've seen that with people who called us and want to buy it. And I say, look, I'm not claiming that it's going to help your memory. I'm not telling you it's going to work. I know the research works. I know that people have used strobe light, that it works, but they don't like the strobing. And I know that there's clinical trials, not from us, from our competitor, Cognito and MIT, saying it helps with brain atrophy in Alzheimer's patients. So they've proven it in their phase 2 clinical trials. So they're ahead of us. And I will only sell it if I can honestly think that it'll help you. If it's not, I'm sorry, we only have a limited amount of devices that we have and that we're selling because of the supply chain. You can wait. So trust me, I get so many letters with like emails, letters, and people calling, telling me their stories. And I take an hour or half an hour and actually have a conversation with them, you know, and really understand. Because again, at the end of the day, I'm not out to make money. I'm out to create a change and to help people who are saying, you know, I met with this girl yesterday and she's like, I've been taking ADHD drugs since I was 5. It made me feel numb. I hated it and I finally got off of it, but I'm going back to school. And I know these guys that are testing it with you from Boston have had a lot of help with it. Focus. Can I please have one? And I said, sorry, I don't know you. But, you know, she called me a lot of times and we finally agreed to send her a testing device. But, you know, it's not about, for me right now, getting something out so that investors can be happy. No, it's getting something out so I can get data and then go back to these people and say, look, it's impactful. We don't have it in clinical data, but we have it in real world experience. We have testimonies. Do you want the information from these individuals who are in a very controlled setting? Or do you want a setting where literally you're sitting here and you're getting the impact in the real world? And that's what most investors care about.
Good question. Random question.
Yeah.
What's your food budget for the month?
Mine? Oh, you know, I'm considered a luxurious hobo, which means that I try to keep the company afloat as long as possible because we don't want to spend that much money. So most of the time, thank goodness, I've been here in Berkeley a lot. Most people feed me for free, which is great. In Denmark, we go grocery shopping and we cook ourselves. So, you know, we spend about $5 per person a day for lunch. That's it. If you really want to create change and you don't want to be like those people who pay yourself $10,000 a month, that's not what I get paid. I'm sorry. Like, I get paid probably less than your GSIs do. Because I know I used to be a GSI. You know? But that's us. That's how we do things. And everybody who works for our company understand that and know that. And they're doing this for the social impact. They're not doing this to get rich. Maybe one day because we have good shares and we might have claims. But right now, in the last 4 or 5 years, we're doing this because we care about something. Right? So.
You and then you next.
Yeah. It's about meeting them and gauging their personality and working with them. I always tell people who come into our company, especially our co-founders, they work first. We were working as a student project together, and I was just like, yeah, we're not getting paid. This is just what we're doing on the side. I lead by example, right? I didn't pay myself for 2 years when we first started this company. Everything was my savings. And finally, they were like, we really need you to actually feed yourself and not living for free with us sometimes. You know, I jumped from house to house in Denmark, staying in people's like beds, because when I travel there, I didn't want to pay for rent because that would have taken money out of my account, the people that are there. I also say, let's date. You know, I'm going to date all of you guys for like 6 months. And if you don't like me and how I lead the company, and I don't like you on how you don't like the vision of the company, then we amicably break up, which, is sort of an adult thing to do. Like, sorry, I don't like the way you chew your food. Same thing with the company. Sorry, I don't like the way that or if they say, sorry, it's been 6 months and I haven't gotten that much pay. But at the end of the day, I always reassure them that, yeah, you won't be well paid, but also you will learn so much. You'll be outside of your comfort zone because you're going to be an engineer who's going to learn sales. You're going to be a physicist who's going to learn neuroscience. You're going to come in here and I'm going to shoot you with a Nerf gun just because, and it's okay. We become a family. And that's the thing. If you make people who work with you understand the vision and also care about the vision, but also realize that you'll take care of them as a family, they'll go above and beyond for you no matter what their salary is, right? But you can't yourself pay yourself way more than them. You lead by example. So
you asked me for free dinner.
exactly. So I was like, can you feed me a nice dinner? That'd be great. Yeah, I know. My PhD professor always says, "Ma, you're not a typical PhD student. Most are like, I know you guys have GSI, so you know how most PhD students are. They're kind of more reserved. I'm the youngest of 8. My mom sold at the flea market, and she made me go out there ever since I was a kid. So there was always diversity, always people coming from all walks of life. And for me, it was basically knowing and understanding everyone's struggles. I had to be a really good salesperson, sales kid. I was this chubby, cute little kid. You're welcome for the image. And it was just good to know that wherever I do, I have my personality from the struggles. I think one of my favorite quotes is suffering is a gift, right? So when you suffer, you're going through these things. When you're failing, you're learning. And so a lot of times throughout my childhood, my parents were never there because they had 8 kids to feed, So we walked ourselves to school. We taught ourselves. My parents didn't know English. So going to school, it was us teaching ourselves. I'm the only one in my family who went and got a PhD. And 2 of my sisters were the only one who graduated from undergrad. The rest were a little old when they got here, so they didn't speak any English. They were bullied a lot. There's a policy at our company that you have to speak English. Even though you're in Denmark, you have to speak English. Because at the end of the day, you don't want anyone to feel left out, right? And that's how I've always felt as a kid, is that I don't want to leave anybody around me out. I know what struggling is like. When I was an undergrad here, I slept in my car for 6 months because I didn't want my parents to think that I was struggling, but I also didn't want them to pay for college because they couldn't. So, you quietly just do your work and do the things that you do. And that's why I have the culture and personality that I have for my employees. Because I went through a lot of mental health things in, struggling with school. Trust me, I had horrible undergraduate GPA. I don't know how I got into grad school. But yes, someone believed in me. Someone took care of me, got into grad school. And when I was the director for the research experience for undergrad, I reviewed applications. And it was really, I did not give a shit, sorry about my language, what your GPA was. I wanted to understand where you came from and your personality. And it's much easier for me to teach you how to do something than it is for you to come in with your own ideology on how to do something. Because then it just makes you a cocky person, right? So humility is important. Grit is important. Failure and openness is important. So that's sort of how I got my personality. Yeah. Sorry, just one. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I think a measurement of success is very much a societal thing, right? A lot of times we think, I had a PhD. Everyone's like, oh my God, you're so successful. But what have I done, right? And I think success is what you make it. I think I'm successful in my own part is that I went to college. So if you ask me, what is my measurement for success? That's it. Anything that I do above and beyond that for my company and for society, it's just me saying, awesome. And I think that's as a company, then you should say, what's successful is that you're creating something that at the end of the day, your sister can text you and say, I'm proud of you, right? And that's what happened. My sister texts me and says, I'm proud of you. You created something that can help me. For me personally, no. For the company, probably the company has a lot, right? It's for us to get FDA approval, if that's what you're talking about, measurement of success. In the eyes of an investor, success is you getting acquired, is you having to be a $500 million company. So if you look at it in a sense of a business side, that's a measurement of success. But are you happy with your success is what I want to ask you guys every day building your company. If you're unhappy and miserable building this company, that's not successful. Successful is you are good with yourself and you're happy every day coming to work, growing, and doing something that you feel comfortable with. Someone else has a question? Over here? Yeah. I'm sorry. I always tell this to the Danes. Enunciate. What can I help you with? Okay. So his question is that what was the initiative for this project? Was it part of my PhD? And what did the university play a role in? And to be honest, it's complete opposite of what I studied in grad school. I studied sexual differentiation and determination in the brain during early childhood development. What does that mean, you ask? Is how is it that your brain can develop as a female during early development, but then you're born a male? So gender dysphoria, looking at the gradient between sex and how we define sex, what is involved? So no, that's not what I did. I mean, that's not what I'm doing now, right? So that wasn't. But I think what the university taught me is that you have to create your own opportunity. And then neuroscience educated me a lot in the brain and what I'm doing. It also led me to Satarja Center for Entrepreneurship. That's where I met my co-founder, Yes, who was talking there. It also had a lot of resources on campus and people who, they were like, yeah, you're the CEO now. Good luck. So then I had to go to Gigi and be like, Gigi, I'm a female, first time doing this. These guys just talk over me. What do I do, right? And Gigi is just like, girl, step up. Like, I was like, oh, yeah, okay. So I learned a lot. I mean, the university teaches you're competing against the world. Literally at this university, you're competing with the person, if you're pre-med, that is, you're competing at the person sitting next to you. If you're starting a startup, every single one of you who wants to start a startup, you're competing for the same investors, no matter they're in healthcare, tech, the next food app, the next dating app, you're still competing against people for money. So, yeah. The guy all the way in the back over there. Yeah.
When you were having your initial pitch, you said that you don't have that much business or you didn't have it. I'm guessing you got a lot of money at the beginning. How did you move forward in terms of changing your pitch to better suit investors? Did you do exploratory testing or did you ask people around you or ask for feedback from investors?
Yeah, definitely. I come from a neuroscience background and all of my co-founders are engineers. And trust me when I say that we only knew how to talk nerdy is very true. And our pitch was very technical, very scientific. And that's why we got a lot of no's, right? Because people are like, I'm sorry, I don't know what the astrodendrocytes are that are going to be propagating in the neuronic hypothalamus, whatever region. So as you get more no's, as you get more constructive feedback, you need to learn also that when people tell you these things, especially in a setting like this, when you have mentors who are saying, people call me a puppy shooter for a reason because you have a beautiful idea. It's your puppy. It's cute. But at the end of the day, you just got to shoot it because if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, right? And I got that a lot. I got a lot of no's and people being like, I have no idea what the hell you're saying. And it's just fixing your idea because they'll just be like, mine, why does it matter to you? I was like, yeah, because the brain and the atrophy. And they're like, no, why does it matter to you? And that's why I started my presentation with really why it matters. It's the people. It's a story. And that's how you slowly get people to understand your project, no matter how technical it is. If you cannot talk to your grandmother and have her understand what you're doing, you failed. Does that answer your question? Yeah, and I asked a lot of people. I pitched in front of my mom. I pitched in front of my sister. I pitched in front of, my friends who were like business people or who were scientists. Scientists got me. You just got to pitch in. Like I was just out at a cafe and I'd be like, hey, can I pitch my idea to you? And if they didn't understand it, do over. And I think it's the ability to be uncomfortable and just going up to anybody and being like, yo, I have a really cool idea. But also being relatable because you guys are all very smart. You went to Berkeley. Trust me, 90% of the people won't understand, or the world won't understand what the heck you're saying. So just be relatable.
Great. Any more questions?
No? No,
I'm so glad. Okay, right here is a question, and it's the last question. Okay, speak loudly.
Have you studied the effect of this technology on other disorders like
Yeah, so let me lay this out. Have I studied this in seasonal affect disorder? So seasonal affective disorder is very much a light. You go to a place you don't have that much light because light activates serotonin and inhibits melatonin, right, for your mood. And I tell people all the time that why is it that you can be in Hawaii or Egypt? I'm just thinking about really sunny places, right? And there's still depression. Why is that? It's because depression can propagate between light deficiency or brainwave deficiency. So no matter how much amount of light that you have, if your brainwave doesn't work, it's not going to translate into your happy serotonin activation. And so we are starting a clinical trial in Denmark right now. It's called Project Felix, looking at depression and anxiety. So yeah, we are doing a study for it.
So, aren't you glad I almost